So, PSA to our listeners on this episode. We didn't record this in order, so we're actually recording this intro last, and so about halfway through the episode, suddenly you're just going to hear this squeaking and crinkling going on in the background.
Not ASMR crinkling.
No, not ASMR crinkling. Marvin has just been really on it today, and he did not want to be in his kennel for recording. So he got to be out here for us. I think that was during Rings of Power.
I think so, too.
When he was talking about...
He had opinions.
He had opinions about the Rings of Power. Man, they were strong.
And then he started squeaking the toy. So.
Then he started squeaking the toy, and then he put it in my lap.
We're going to owe him some cuddles.
Yeah, we do. I probably need to wrestle with him
how dare us go run today?
I know.
How dare us go in the kitchen to
we
work on...
left the house.
An Easter meal, because we are recording this early. How dare us, do anything but attend to his every pet and desire.
Yes. So
he is so cute, though. Ain't he cute?
He is very cute.
He's very cute.
Welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about TV that we watch. As always, I am Daniel, and I'm joined by Hope.
Hey.
And we got a few things to talk about this episode. I think first we want to just jump right into we watched. You kind of watched it all the way through, and I was kind of in and out of the room. Raya
and the Last Dragon. Finally watched that movie on Disney Plus. So this is a movie for us. That came out in. This says it came out in 2021. I thought it came out in 2020. Maybe Yep. This says release date March 5th, 2021. Did you know that?
No, I did not. Did it go straight to Disney Plus?
I think
was it in theaters too?
I think that some theaters had it, but I feel like it was. I think they did put it straight to Disney Plus, though.
Okay, because I feel like this one just kind of washed over me.
Yeah, so still early in the pandemic, I guess. Not like stuff was. I mean, I think theaters and stuff were open, but I think this movie would have done better if the world was more normal at the time. And you and I, I think you got the gist. You watched most of it with me.
I watched most of it with you.
And we did the Wine and Dine 2-course challenge in November 2022, and the 10K was Raya themed. And that's the first time I've ever done a Run Disney race, and I had not seen the movie that it was themed after. And I kept wanting to watch it before, but you know how life is. We got busy, and again, this is why we watch TV. We can sit down and watch hours of a TV show, but even a kid's movie just requires more brain power on both of our parts. And then I thought, well, we'll just watch it when we get right back, because the medal was really cute. I like the medal. Did you like the medal? It opened up. You saw the dragon inside of our medals.
The medal was cool.
And then we didn't.
She has a cool hat too. Because we saw the Raya was there at the race.
Yeah, she was there. She was you could get pictures with her, I think on the course and before and after the race.
Before, yep.
Which we didn't. We got in Baloo's line before the race from the Jungle Book, because apparently nobody cares about the Jungle Book anymore. He had no. I usually don't take pictures before the races at Disney, but he had no one in line.
Yeah, there was no one in line.
So we're like, okay, we'll go see Baloo before the 10K. But anyway, finally watched it fairly recently, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
I thought it was very good. Yeah.
Now, it wasn't so we have Encanto. That was a fantastic movie. Love that one. But that was more your traditional Disney musical.
Yeah.
There's a song that's in the soundtrack for Raya, but it's not your typical, Disney, princessy Disney type movie musical. That's one of the things I noticed. Not a lot of singing, which is fine.
That's fine with me, yeah.
Yeah.
Preferable, maybe.
I thought it was a great story. I loved her character. Raya was great. Sisu the dragon, so much fun. I think Awkwafina is the woman's name. She's in the Shang-Chi. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Shang-Chi.
She's one of the characters in that movie. She's also in Crazy Rich Asians. She voiced the dragon in it. Hilarious as usual. I thought a lot of my friends were like, oh my gosh, I love Sisu. I love Sisu. I love Sisu, that had seen that movie. And I'm like, okay, well, she looks pretty. I had no idea that she'd be so much fun. It's such a. It was a really good adventure story. I really enjoyed it.
I like the roly-poly guy she rides around on.
Me too. It started out little, and then he got big, and then she would ride around on him. That was so cute. It was a really good movie, and I feel like more people would talk about and know this movie if it hadn't, been released when it did. Kelly Marie Tran from the Star Wars sequels.
Yeah.
She's not in the first one. She's in The Last Jedi And even though her role shouldn't have gotten reduced,
She's
whole other
very
rant.
briefly in Rise of Skywalker.
She is in Rise of Skywalker. I would like to see more from her character, but she voices Raya.
Yeah.
But it was just a fun, adventurous movie. I liked the characters. I liked the whole like dragon part of it. And you're like, oh, there's a dragon part of it. Yes.
I like the dragons.
I thought
the dragons
it was a really
were cool.
fun, adventurous movie. I'm gonna say that it's one of my favorite like Disney cartoon movies I've seen in a while. I actually liked it better than Encanto. What about you?
Yeah, I liked it better in Encanto, but I'm not. I think that means more coming from you than it does from me because
I do like
the fact that it's a musical is immediately just pegs it down for me.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I didn't like Encanto. That's not what I'm saying.
It was a good movie, but
like,
I thought it was
I'm not
really
into the
good.
songs. I'm not a song and dance man.
I guess you're not. Again, go watch the middle. To get that reference. But I really enjoyed it. There's not like a ton that I can say about it other than it was really good. It was heartwarming, that adventure plot, the funny characters. What if they had one where the baby, like, because certain people's like parents like disappeared because the dragons couldn't protect something. I was a little fuzzy on that plot point, but the baby was like hustling people.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
What's the word I'm looking for?
With the creatures. I don't know what they were.
Yeah.
But it was like the three creatures, and you find out later the baby's basically being raised.
Con baby.
Yeah, a con baby. And the baby was basically being raised by these little feral creatures in this town because their parent is like turned to stone or something.
And you see like Raya obviously has clear-cut trust issues.
Yeah.
They work on that at the movie, and it wasn't your typical like there's no like boyfriend or anything like that even involved.
I guarantee you there's somebody on the internet shipping her and the girl from the
other girl that was kind of like they were enemies.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's some people out there.
I mean, I could go
disgusting
for that.
Artwork.
Maybe not disgusting artwork, but that was kind of the thing, like learning to trust again. And I feel like I am a type of person. I'm not a very trusting person. So I'm like, oh, this movie's preaching to me. Like I trust very few people. And it's just, again, conversations from my therapist. But I really liked it. How would you rate it in terms of some of the recent Disney cartoons that we've seen?
It was good. Better than Encanto.
Oh my gosh, did you guys hear that? It wasn't. What was it again, Daniel?
I said it was good.
You're getting the it was good, Dan. That means he really liked it.
I don't know that I would go with really liked it.
I mean, it's better than fine.
Well, yeah, it was better than fine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so we have been meaning for the longest time to talk about two different shows that we both watched separately without each other. And it's just been, there's been a lot of content that's been coming out fairly recently. Like we've had a lot of Ted Lasso, Mandalorian, Picard, and we've got a lot of new content coming out soon too. So because this is kind of the episode that we had to do in advance, since I was out of town celebrating my birthday weekend, we thought we would go ahead and talk about these two shows now. So we're going to talk about Rings of Power, which guess which one of us watched that?
It has to be you.
Yeah, it's you.
Wow.
I'm not hating on the Lord of Rings.
I watched it.
Just didn't see that one. And then I also watched Outer Banks. So we're going to kind of question each other about the shows, and we'll go from there. So let's kick it. Let's nerd style this. What do you think, Daniel? We kick it off with yours?
That's all I do is nerd style.
Okay, so Rings of Power. This is season 1. It's a new show.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime?
Yep.
Do they have plans to do a second season?
They're filming now, according to the internet.
Okay.
Amazon spent $1 billion on this.
Okay, so why do you think that they chose to do kind of like, is this based on source material from Tolkien's books, or did they make up this story? Or was there, because I know we have like The Hobbit, we have The Lord of the Rings, the 3 books. Is this like stuff drawn from his books, or is this an original script?
Can we go with secret option C? It's complicated.
Explain how.
Okay.
So.
The way I understand it,
layman's terms.
The way I understand it is this: there are books that Tolkien wrote that are prequels to The Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is
not The Hobbit.
Not The Hobbit. Other ones.
Because were these books published?
Yes, I have one of them on the shelf back there.
Okay.
And the show takes place during those time periods, like 1,000 years before The Lord of the Rings, or even 2,000. It's a while. Amazon doesn't have the rights to those books. But what they do have the rights to is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers,
don't exist in those books.
and the Return of the King. The Return of the King has an appendix.
Great movie.
Has an appendix in it.
Okay.
Which goes into some of the detail of Middle-earth prior to the trilogy that the later books fleshed out. So what they have to go on is that outline. And so characters from the Lord of the Rings that did exist back then and like really big story elements are accurate. But all the
did they make
details,
up the names and stuff and like
no, that's
plot
stuff,
points?
So that's
if there was a character named like Cindy Baggins of Hill House, like that would have existed, but if that was a character in the show, like her plot, her motivations, and all that stuff would be made up by the writing team.
Right.
Okay.
So Gladriel, the character that was played by, well, crap, I don't even remember the actress's name now, but she was in the Lord of the Rings. She is a character in the show, main character in the show, because she's an elf, so she has a long lifespan.
She's the one that narrates at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett, yeah. I don't know why I couldn't remember Kate Blanchett's name.
You know what's crazy to me about Kate Blanchett? Back when like Lord of the Rings, like we first watched Lord of the Rings, I thought Kate Blanchett was like old then.
Yeah, I know, right?
And she's like not old, wasn't old at all. We were just young.
Yeah, well, she was playing like a 12,000-year-old elf
She still looks pretty good. She was good for age. She's aged gracefully.
She played Galadriel, is the main character of this story. And it's not inaccurate to say that Galadriel existed during this time, because she did. But none of what she's doing happened.
So that was one of my other questions about the show. Okay, so in the beginning, if you can hear that was Marvin. In the beginning of the Lord of the Rings movies, like the first one, Fellowship of the Ring, Kate Blanchett's character, what is her name is Galadriel? I always just called her Kate Blanchett's elf character. So she's like talking about like all the events, like about how like the stuff with the rings, right? And how they had the wars, and once humans got them, that's when everything, went to crap because humans suck. Is any of that in Rings of the Power? Like that's kind of what I thought this was based on.
Essentially, the rings. So that like 5-second segment in the beginning where she says there were 3 rings that went to the elves, there were 7 rings that went to the dwarves, and there were 9 rings that went to the men. That is what is happening in this show.
Okay, so that part, because that's what I was wondering. So that part in Lord of the Rings, the beginning, because we had just watched the beginning of Fellowship a few weeks ago randomly for some reason. That part, like that's kind of what this series is going to go into. So do all the humans suck in the show, or are there humans?
There are humans, yes.
Now, I had read something about this, that like the elves look different in Rings of Power than they do in the movies or something, and they couldn't have hobbits, but they had hobbit-like characters.
So
is that correct?
There aren't hobbits per se. There's and in the books there would not have been hobbits. Period.
At this time, but did they invent something?
They have characters that are called Harfoot. And they're basically hobbits.
Are they like Aborigines?
Yeah, that's kind of what they're. No, that is. That's kind of what they're going for. Is like early hobbits.
So hobbits didn't exist in this time period.
No, the elves. I mean, I think most what you're hearing about people complaints about the elves is a couple things. One, there are elves that have short hair.
Okay. So
and there are elves that are not white.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so you can kind of see where those complaints are coming through.
Okay.
From.
Anyway,
I don't care about that, but I mean the elves felt kind of like the elves. And another Elrond's in it as well.
Is that the guy that shows up in the MCU?
The Red Skull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know who you're talking about now. So that was going to be my question. Any of the characters that we see on Lord of the Rings get a reference? Gandalf, would he not been alive then? The wizard? Or did we get a mention of Gandalf?
So actually, one of the bigger plot points of season 1 is that there is a character called the Stranger who falls out of the sky in a meteor shower, and the Harfoots just find him, and he can't even speak at the point when they find him. And over the course of the season, at first they try and throw you a curve and make you think he's Sauron, but
who is Count Dooku, right? The same
actor. No, that's Saruman. Saruman is Count Dooku. Sauron is like the big eyeball.
Tolkien. Oh yeah, Tolkien is great, but I'm just gonna say this right now.
He could have.
A lot of the names sound the same,
especially if you consider those are like the 2 big bad guys of the trilogy. Yeah, but so anyways, by the end of the season, everybody's pretty like 98% sure that the stranger is actually Gandalf. And then they're showing how he came to Middle-earth for the first time.
Back then, right?
Yeah.
So, so there are humans in this show.
Yeah.
Are the humans all bad, or are any of them good?
No, the human, like Numenor is the main group of humans
are
that
we
you
going
see.
to see that some of these humans that might have started out good kind of go down that bad road because of the rings?
Well, so the rings don't exist yet.
The show is called The Rings of Power.
By the end of the first season, the 3 rings that the elves have come into being.
Okay.
But the one ring doesn't exist yet, and none of the rest of them do.
All?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And so, that is, I'm assuming what we're going to see over the course of the next. They are greenlit for a second season. I have my doubts if they'll get far past second season with how it was received.
I feel like not a lot of people watched it, and I saw a lot of you're somebody that you really like the books, you like the movies, except for The Hobbit should have never been made into 3 movies.
Correct.
They shouldn't have drawn that out. Why didn't, if Amazon owns the rights to all this, because we've been hearing all these rumors that HBO Max is going to do what I always said they probably end up doing. I said they're not going to make more Harry Potter movies. I said they're going to do a show. I think if you did a show, Game of Thrones style, only this time you actually have what the actual ending is, I think that could be perfect for Lord of the Rings. Why did they choose to go that route instead?
It's unclear to me what Amazon has the rights to.
What their motivations were, because I think a Lord of the Rings show would be really good. And then you could some of those details in the books that you guys didn't get that I would always hear the nerds complain about. You could do it in the show.
But
that's one of my things with Harry Potter. If they do that Harry Potter show, I can get some of the stuff with the politics with the elves in Harry Potter. Remember Hermione and she made that group about their rights. We might be able to get that. We might be able to describe who actually gave the fireball to Harry. All these things.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think the Lord of the Rings trilogy, a show would be tough because you know how this country tends to want to milk its shows. And
but they would have plenty of material. I mean,
yeah, but at some point that material is actually a problem because then you're a person who took a shot at reading the Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I started. And
how far did you get in? And you were like, nothing that happened in the movies has happened yet.
Yeah, I can agree. That's why I'm saying instead of doing Rings of Power, we could have done a show and we could have explained what we didn't get to put in the movies in the show. Although let's be real. Nowadays, the way they split stuff up, that would be a 6-movie series.
Yes.
For sure.
And let's be honest, I don't think anybody, the first couple seasons, if they did the Lord of the Rings trilogy as a show, would be very boring.
And I'm normally the type of person, too, that I am a staunch believer and read the book first, but Lord of the Rings just didn't jive with me so much.
Oh, well, see,
I do like the movies. I really liked Return of the King.
I love Lord of the Rings. I love
the Shire.
Now, I came into them through the movies first. I saw the Fellowship of the Ring when it first came out, and now I read the books. Prompted me to go read the books, which for me at that time in my life, I was not a big reader.
Yeah, you weren't really like I was like a Rory Gilmore. I'd read 4 books a week. So
and so it was actually really good for me because it kind of got me into reading for the first time in a way where I was doing it because I wanted to, not because school had me to. Apologies for the crinkle paper and the squeaks. We have the dog in here with us today.
Yeah,
and
he decided he wanted to be part of the podcast.
He wants to be part of the podcast. So
I guess my other question for you is, do you have a favorite character from Rings of Power? You don't have to go into great detail, but any character really stick out to you or acting that you would say kind of stole the show?
Anytime the Elrond and his dwarf friend are on screen, I'm really interested.
And Elrond that's a character we know.
Elrond's a character we know. The dwarf is not.
Is that Liv Tyler's dad in the movie?
Yes.
In the movies?
Yes.
Aragorn's boo. What's her name? In the
Not Steven Tyler, by the way.
What's her name in the show?
Arwen.
What?
Arwen.
See, this is why I again enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies, but all the names confuse me. All right. Do you ship any characters on the show? What would if you ever convince me to watch Rings of Power, you got to give me is there going to be shipping some romances that I'm going to enjoy?
They're trying to get you to ship Galadriel with Sauron.
And Sauron is the big evil eye?
Yeah, he's a guy in the show. And was and historically is also a physical being.
How did he be turned into an eye?
Well, because when the ring is destroyed at the end of this age, which is probably what we're going to see for the finale of this show, he loses his ability to be corporeal.
Oh my gosh, if I got into that, that'd be another Anakin Padme situation on my hands. And now you have my attention. I might have to give your show a chance. So on that note,
So
any final thoughts
yeah,
about Rings of
so
Power?
final thoughts on Rings of Power. It wasn't very good.
It wasn't very good.
It
Should I
wasn't very
watch
good.
it?
If I would love to watch it. Okay, I have two minds of the show because on one side, there are things that they put on screen
Yes.
that, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I've never seen on screen before,
Yes.
and it was awesome. And the show is gorgeous.
I will say you told me, because I was always going to watch this with you, and you were like, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
So you told me before it even aired. You were like, and I was like, okay, fine. I won't watch it then.
The show is gorgeous. They spent
the movies are gorgeous.
They clearly spent a ton of money on the graphics. It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look crazy. Their costume, whatever. There can be a couple weird costumings, but whatever. Overall, just the production value is excellent.
But acting, do I get the Shire feel? The Shire is my happy place when I watch Lord of the Rings.
No, because they're not anywhere near the Shire.
But do I have a Shire-like vibe?
The Harfoots are going to give you kind of a vibe like that, and they're clearly moving those folks towards that end.
Sorry about that squeaking. Marvin really wants to participate. Probably because Marvin is all about eating food, and that is my final question for you. 11sies, does it happen? Or not, because the hobbits aren't born yet?
There's no 11sies.
Well, yeah, I might have to rethink. So, bottom line then, do you like it or do you not like it?
I will continue to watch it as long as they make it. If you want to watch it with me because you are interested in something I've said here, I would love to watch it with you. I don't know that I would recommend it to the average
So are
Joe.
You like me with In Just Like That, the Sex and the City sequel, where I'm like, I don't like it, but I'm going to keep watching it, and I'm interested.
I think, I think that's the case, yeah. Like,
all right.
It's like, do you want to know my biggest gripe with the show?
Sure.
And everybody out there can just laugh at me and go ahead and say Daniel's dumb. At one point towards the end of the season, one of the major characters is horribly injured. Like, it's bad. Mm-hmm. And Galadriel's like, well, he needs elf healing. And first of all, I'm like, well, aren't you an elf? But beyond that. So she throws him on a horse, and they take off back to Elfland. So I want to take you back to the Lord of the Rings trilogy for a moment. How long did it take Sam and Frodo to get from the Shire to Mount Doom?
Like movies, right?
Okay, but in like real time, it was like almost a year of their actual in-road time to do that walk.
Oh, you're
now
they weren't transportation complaint again. Okay.
Now they weren't on horseback. I'll give them that. Okay. But Galadriel and this guy, the next episode, that episode ends. They get to the last episode of the season. They get up to the Elfland where they want to be for him to get his healing. And she's like, we rode for 4 days straight without stopping.
So is it like the Game of Thrones transportation where suddenly, remember how it would take them forever the first couple seasons to travel? Mm-hmm. And in these last seasons, it was like, we're here in a day.
Yep. Yeah. And it just breaks things for me so much because I know you can't ignore that stuff as a writer.
Yeah, you're a nerd though, but yeah.
When you go out to write up whatever you're writing, you set up certain rules. You can't just then break those rules because it's inconvenient and you wrote yourself into a corner.
True. So the Daniel scale, okay or fine? Or eh?
It was okay.
Ooh. All right.
I can't wait for season 2. And so you also watched a show on your own without me, The Outer Banks season 3.
Outer Banks is the name
of the
show.
Outer Banks.
Outer Banks.
Oh, just Outer Banks, no the.
Outer Banks. You made me question it. That's enough that I want to.
You have to forgive me. I'm originally from Ohio, and so I have this arrogant tendency to just put the in front of stuff.
Oh gosh. Like the Ohio State.
I'm pretty sure it's just Outer Banks.
It is Outer Banks.
You corrected me enough times at this point.
I thought you were going to say you're from Ohio and everybody either went to Outer Banks or the Myrtle Beach.
Everybody around me did go to Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach. We call Myrtle Beach West Virginia's beach.
Yeah.
Because I've never been to a Myrtle Beach trip and not seen people I know.
I don't know that I ever saw anybody I know, but I know a lot of people went.
Did.
I didn't when I went without you.
Your aunt and uncle were there.
We went with them. I don't think that counts.
We stayed in separate campers.
That doesn't count as seeing other people you know when you went down there intentionally with them at the same time.
That's cool.
Okay. So what season of Outer Banks are we on?
Well, they just wrapped season 3.
Okay. Is it getting a season 4?
Yes, it is getting a season 4. I am not sure we needed a season 4. I think they could have sewed up the storyline well. But I think it is one of their better performing Netflix shows, and I'm still excited to watch season 4 to pick up where some things left
Okay.
off. But it wasn't needed. We
So,
could have wrapped it up.
and that was my next question was what app is it on? You said it's on Netflix,
It
which
is on Netflix.
a Netflix show getting a season 4, it must be doing something right because
A lot of the youths like Outer Banks too.
okay, so you're very hip and with it,
I
is
am.
what you'd say.
I actually first got into Outer Banks peak pandemic. Picture it. It's a time like 2020. It wasn't March, so it was after like the Tiger King madness. But a lot of people still weren't doing a lot of stuff, and I was like, oh, this show kind of looks like the OC. For the younger people listening, the OC came out in fall of 2003. Woo! 20 years ago. Oh my goodness. And I thought this show might be like kind of like a teen drama like the OC. And while it was kind of crazy and there's some romances like the OC, I didn't know I was going to get treasure hunts.
Well, that leads me to my
crazy
first real question.
shenanigans. Wow. And I watched the first season in like 2 days. That's how addicted I was to it.
Because I just kind of occasionally transit by the living room as you're watching this show, and I have to ask, what in the world is going on this show?
Oh, it's crazy. There's treasure hunts, family drama. So it starts off in season 1. John B.
John B.
You know, like the Beach Boys song, like
John B.
John B, not John B.
I have it spelled out in my notes, Jawby, John B.
John.
That's how he
B.
says it, and that's how I'm going to write
I'll
it.
call him John B. And his dad has gone like missing. A lot of people think his dad is dead, and his dad used to like to go hunt for treasure. Yes, there's like this whole like mythical aspect to it. And we have the Pogues. They're like the poor people, not poor. I guess they're poorer, more the low income people that live in the Outer Banks, and so they kind of hang out. We've got JJ. He's my favorite Pogue. Pope. They're friends, and then they also hang out with Kiara. So Kiara Key, she lives on the rich area, but she's like, I'm a Pogue at heart. That's how I'm going to be. That's who her friends are. But then we have the rich side. They call them the Kooks. I don't know if that's a real thing in the Outer Banks or what. And that's Sarah, her brother Rafe. Yes, his name is Rafe, Rafe. And Topper, that's Sarah's boyfriend at the time. And they're kind of like the rich side over there. And John B works for Sarah's dad, who is crazy. And they end up, eventually, falling in love, very Romeo and Juliet style. And we learned so many more things, like, because John B's dad also worked with Sarah's dad, all right? And it turns out that he had some stuff to do with why John B's dad went missing, because he wants the treasure too, even though he's rich, because what do rich people do in this country? It's never enough. They always want more money,
enough.
right? And so Sarah and John B are together. She's kind of living that honorary Pogue life. So you've got romance. You've got family. You've got murder questioning stuff. You've got like just the high schooly stuff of it all. You've got treasure hunts in every episode of the Outer Banks. Now you have me doing it. Every episode of Outer Banks from season 1, 2, and 3 are just insane. And I would say 3 maybe had a little bit slower episodes, but that could have been me watching it, because I will say, disclaimer, I watched season 3 when I had like just, gotten the vid. And so I was kind of in and out of it there for a little bit on that one. But there's, especially the first 2 seasons, like this show does not suffer from I'm going to put everything insane at the end of my finale. Every episode is crazy. The ending of every episode is crazy, to the point where I'm like, I cannot wait. I must watch the next episode now. Click. And before you know it, I'm like, I finished the season like in seconds. Even having the vid, I finished season 3 in like, 3 days?
Yeah, it didn't take you very long. So that description you just gave me, if you told me that was set in like space,
Like
you'd have had me on board.
No, not Muppet Treasure Island. That was actually about the thing. They had Muppets in space, though, right?
I think they've put Muppets in space.
Okay.
I think we've achieved that level of technology to put the Muppets in space.
I
at
think
this point.
if you had started Outer Banks at the beginning, I think you would have enjoyed it. Like, you would enjoy it. Like, it's crazy. You would like the treasure hunting is like the best part.
Okay, well, let's test that theory then. Do they break my travel rule?
And Ward, I just want to say, is the name of Sarah's dad. I was forgetting his name for a second.
Yeah, so do they break my travel rule?
I really don't think they do, because they go off to
Well, I was asking. So
Caribbean.
yeah, season 3 starts off. They're not even
It takes
in the
them
Outer
a good
Banks.
piece to get back.
Because when I was in here watching some of it with you, I was like, well, this show's called Outer Banks, but they're not in the Outer Banks.
No, because the way the season 2 ended was they kind of got stranded on some random island, and they caught it like Poguelandia, like their own like Pogue Island, and they were on that island for like a month. Like their parents thought they had just been disappeared. So I don't think
They sure
the
looked
show,
it too. They sure looked like they'd been surviving for a
Hey,
month on a
Sarah's
deserted
highlights
island.
had grown out, and I liked that attention to detail. So, yeah, but I would say they don't I think it does take them a reasonable time to travel. Like, obviously, they're not going to show them on a boat for like 4 days or something. Like, they're going to speed it up because we're still in a TV show. But they were in the Caribbean for a while, and I think they go to like Barbados or something at one point. That is in the Caribbean, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, geography taking a hit. You know what? Some people don't know that West Virginia is a state. I'm allowed to get that confused.
So who is your favorite character in Outer Banks?
My favorite character in Outer Banks is JJ. He is one of the Pogues.
JJ Watt?
No.
No.
He has a pretty rough life. We don't know anything really about his mom. His dad is abusive and awful, but he is just so funny and sweet, and he's also a part, one half of one of my favorite ships that we finally got some breadcrumbs for in season 3, and that was my favorite part of season 3. JJ and Key, love them. They had put her with Pope originally, one of the other Pogues.
The Pope?
No, his name is Pope. And I was like, okay, that's random. Because at first you thought she might get with John B. And then, because he kind of was into her
You
before.
have to really put an effort into saying John B.
Be quiet.
Because you want to say, what do you want to say?
Maybe it's just our Appalachian.
It's
John B.
It's definitely my Appalachian in
They
me.
thought you might, anyway, going back, I thought that might be like a love triangle, but they kind of like, you know, he kissed her. She was like, ew, no. So that was never a thing. Then she gets with Pope at some point, but all the fans were like, wow, you know, and you could say maybe they added in some fan service, but it's fan service that works because everyone was like, while Pope seemed really random, she and JJ have such good chemistry, really good scenes, and they make each other better. She's there for him, and we finally, you could tell the end of season 2, they're like, okay, we see what you guys are saying, that they have really good chemistry. They had some really good moments, and then season 3, we were so well fed. And as shippers of this ship, I think they call it Giara or something on Reddit. I will say I thought it was going to be him chasing her because I feel like on a lot of shows it's always the guy that does the chase, and he was kind of like, you know, you're too good for me. Like, this is never going to work. Blah blah blah. And he felt bad because Pope, who ends up in another relationship with somebody else, so it's okay. It's okay. And one of the newer characters, it's all right. They get over things. Kids are resilient. Name that movie, Home Alone. Bet you didn't think I'd mix that in. But you see her fighting for it more, and I thought they were going to do it the opposite way, and that made me like them even more. So JJ is my favorite character.
I see.
Yes.
You said something earlier about you thought maybe they didn't need a 4th season. So was the 3rd season kind of the culmination of, like, had they been building? Is each season kind of its own thing, or were they building towards kind of what happened at the end of season 3?
Each season was kind of building to what happened. Like, we had the mystery, is John B's dad still alive? We find out he's still alive, and then they find him.
He is definitely still alive because he was up in that church ringing a bell going, come on home, John B. I remember hearing that part.
Did you watch that part of the episode?
I think I saw that part. And I'm like real confused.
Well, they find out he's alive at the end of one of the other seasons. I think at the end of season 2, and you see him. If it was the end of season 1, then I don't remember that part. But we know he's alive, and he and John B are finally reunited. And he used to ring the bell for John B at their house in the Outer Banks, and so he does that.
Come home to dinner to just. Because
he was like, I guess
he's a bell enthusiast.
Maybe he was home from his treasures. I don't know, Daniel.
Okay.
I
was just wondering.
Remember the plot point of the bell as much. I did have like a fever of 102 when I was watching that. So just take that with a grain of salt. But they're finally reunited. And you know what? I'm going to say John Rutledge, John B's dad, sucks. I didn't like him very much. he definitely still loved his son, but he was 100% still so fixated on that treasure. He was going to do just about anything to get it. But then, spoiler alert, this is a spoiler podcast, the end of season 3, John Rutledge does die, and I'm pretty sure he is like dead. Like it's
body confirmed.
At one point, we thought Sarah's dad, Ward, was going to die, and then he was like, I was like, okay, there's no way he's dead. That's such a foil. But he dies at the end of season 3 too, and this time it's official. He gets a slight, not even Dan Scott level. Okay, so you know Dan Scott on One Tree Hill did some bad things. Yes. You liked One Tree Hill.
I've even listened to that podcast,
the Drama Queens podcast. Yeah. Yes, so he does get some very slight redemption when he jumps in front of the bullet because the other guy that was after the treasure, Singh or whatever his name is, he's some other player involved in this season. There's a lot of people that want this treasure, and he kind of like jumps in front of it. So Ward is officially dead unless he's taken some kind of magical mythical pill that they put in, because I have read that they might dive into some more supernatural stuff next season. I'm not sure. Yes,
boy.
This show's wild. But John Rutledge dies, but John Rutledge spent his life searching for like the treasure of El Dorado or something. They do get the treasure. They have that. You could have ended it in season 3, but what they do at the end of season 3 is, I think it's like an 18-month time jump. Okay. So it ends with the kids being recognized for like what they did to like help discover this treasure. I'm assuming they let them keep some of it, but I bet some of the state probably kept it. I don't know.
I would assume in a realistic world, I think that suddenly became like a archaeological dig site.
Well, they totally got to keep some of the money. You could just tell. I don't know.
They were wearing nicer clothes.
Anyway, maybe.
Or shoes. Because half of them weren't wearing shoes when I was watching.
What? Is it because they were on the sand? Do you wear shoes when you're on the beach?
Sometimes.
Well, you're a freak. Anyway, we have the time jump. They're getting recognized, and then some like other people come up to the kids and was like, "Hey, have you heard about this?" So like some other kind of treasure or something, and you could tell like they're all kind of happy to be in a normal life, but they missed that thrill because clearly John B probably did get that kind of the bug from his dad. There's something thrilling about hunting for treasure. Hunting for treasure is thrilling, so they end it like that. And my guess is they did the time jump because the kids were still in high school, and maybe they're going to be out of school at this point. I'm not sure, and that'll allow them more like free. They're older now,
yeah.
But we don't know the status of JJ and Key. We know John B and Sarah are back together. They looked very together, but JJ and Key, I'm not sure. And I'm like, are you writers going to make us suffer through them not being together again? There was nothing to indicate that they weren't together, but they were the only couple that wasn't just like kissing and all huggy at the end. And they are, I feel like they are now the main ship of that show because people know that like Sarah and John B, like that they're probably going to be together even in their ups and downs. And I think if judging from what I see on Reddit and the Twitter, everybody's like me and wants to know what's going on with JJ and Key. So I think they might take over plot A couple. But yeah, so you could have totally ended that show on season 3 if you wanted to. They got the treasure. The dad that was the villain, the main villain, Ward is dead. We are pretty sure. And then John Rutledge dies. He kind of makes things right at the end with his son. They find that treasure that had been hunting. So you could have ended it there. But we're going to have a season 4. I'm still going to watch it. I'm sure it's going to be crazy.
I was about to ask, you're a clear I'm watching season 4.
Absolutely.
What's your recommendation what type of person do you think would enjoy this show?
I mean, I really think if you went back at season 1, you would like it for some of the crazy aspects of it. Like remember that day and I'm like, shh, Daniel, they're trying to find the treasure. And then I'm like, oh no, the treasure. Ward just came back from the dead. And you were like, what are you watching? I thought you were watching something like the OC. And I'm like, no. It makes it when Marissa shot Trey on the OC look like just nothing.
But did they have the cool song?
Do y'all know the song? What you say?
They didn't have the cool song. It couldn't have been better than that.
It was. Dan, you did watch the first 2 seasons of the OC, didn't you?
Of course. Yes, I did.
Not bad, right?
No, not bad.
Sandy Cohen. Whew, he's hot now. It was always this. You're either, if you watch the OC.
I'm going to reserve my judgment on that one.
You were either a Seth gal or a Ryan gal. For girlies that watched the OC upon its original airing. I was a Seth gal, and now I think I might be a Sandy Cohen, the dad gal. Guess I'm getting older. Cool.
Could be, so.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it again. Do I think it was necessary? Do I think we could have ended it? Sure. Am I excited? And yeah, I think obviously a lot of teenagers like the show, but a lot of people like my age that I've seen like it. I really think that you would, like, you watch Emily in Paris, for goodness sakes. which I know it's a comedy, but I would say Emily in Paris is more like air quote girly than Outer Banks is. I really think you would like some of the zany, obviously spoiler alert, you know who's going to die and stuff. I don't think you would, I think that you might enjoy it. I know a lot of guys that watch it. There's guys that I went to high school with that talked about how they were watching it and they couldn't wait.
I think I'll just continue to get my updates from you and walk past as you're watching it.
You watched like the first episode with me, right?
I don't remember that.
I had just gotten back from my girls' trip, and I said, I have to watch this for dinner right now. And I was feeling really tired, like horribly tired, and that was probably because I was coming down with the sickness. And I just and you were like, fine, that's fine. And you did watch something because that's where you kept asking me. You're like they're in the Caribbean. I thought the show was called The Outer Banks. Salt Life, man.
Like, are you telling me that I occasionally watch your TV and make a mockery of it as it's on?
Yes, I don't do that to you.
You don't watch my shows.
Touché.
Well, anyways, I think that's our episode for today. So everybody, thanks for listening. And
I really do wish I could give you guys a better description of what exactly happened in Outer Banks Season 3. But I really need to go back. See, this is what we should do, a rewatch. I need to go back and watch some of those episodes myself. Because like I said, that was when I was peak not feeling great. I was watching them out here on the couch. Just, trying to
I have a standing order.
Frame of mind.
I have a standing order that you watch some Star Trek movies with me, and I'll watch stuff with you.
I'm going to make you watch The Vampire Diaries for that.
Oh,
but anyway, like
I
Daniel
was worried you were going
said,
to say that.
Thanks for listening. I'm glad we finally got to talk about these two shows because we watched these shows like at this point, like 2 months ago almost, right?
Yep. And so next week we should be back to our normal kind of rotation of things going on. We'll actually have wrap up for 2 shows.
Yes.
And then we'll continue on with Ted Lasso, and actually Marvelous Mrs. Maisel will be out by then.
That premieres on April 14th.
So we got a lot of good stuff coming up.
So will we have 2 episodes of Maisel at this point?
I don't know. They haven't told us how they're releasing it yet. Sometimes
they're probably doing weekly release.
So I don't know.
What do you guys think? Tell us. Do you prefer the weekly release, or do you like it when they give it to you all at once? What do you like best, Daniel? I like that. I think Netflix still has the best formula. Give it to me all at once.
I have no chill. I mean, the weekly release really helps us with content for the podcast. I would say that I don't think we're going to have much of a choice. Everybody's kind of going to the weekly
Netflix
release.
Is the only one not doing it.
In my world, I would like, especially for a new show that I'm not seen anything before, I don't have a vested interest in, that first 2 episodes is really helpful.
And sometimes Disney Plus does that.
Yeah.
I've noticed they'll give you the first 2 or 3. And Maisel did that, I think, one year. They gave in The Boys. Mm-hmm. The Boys gave us. Remember the year The Boys gave us 3 episodes?
Yeah, and then all of a
we
sudden
were
it was gone.
oh, we are getting the whole season at once, because sometimes Amazon Prime does drop their whole season, and sometimes they don't. I don't think they do it for their higher performing shows like Maisel and The Boys.
Yeah.
But we could let us know your thoughts. Are you guys you want the whole season at once, or do you like the weekly release format?
Yeah. And don't forget to go give us a follow or a rating on any of the apps that you use to listen to us. And we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope on Twitter @LilRunner or on Instagram @LilRunner1485. And Daniel is on Twitter @TheRealHoboDan. Drop us a line if you like the show or have a question you'd like us to address on a future show. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.